Boom. Okay. Oh. Yeah, if you ever need the pen, let me know. Oh! Oh! Damn, this thing's comfortable. Okay. Gentlemen. Okay. Just turn Newhouse down a little bit.
Absolutely.
I'll keep us all about 6 for now. We'll see who talks loud, who doesn't. Okay. We can do a sound check. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Joel.
Yo, hey, how's it going, guys?
Yo.
Testing 1 2.
Hey, do that again, Newhouse.
Testing 1 2.
There we go. Okay. Bees. Pause. That's an episode right there, actually.
That's a wrap, guys.
Let me actually just confirm this is recording. I'm a freak about this stuff. So far, I've had yet to have a major fuck up in one of these things, like delete the episode as soon as I finish it or something. Trying to keep that, keep that streak alive. Okay. Testing. Okay. We're on. Okay.
Are we recording?
Not yet. We're on in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the No Gradient Podcast. I'm here with Joe Ifill of Dash Shipping, known for shipping, dropping food into Wilmington, North Carolina during which hurricane was that?
That was Hurricane Florence.
Hurricane Florence, okay. Puerto Rico, also did some work there. Shipping emergency supplies. Got special permission from the FAA, was it, to ship things down there?
Yeah.
This guy has a shipping company. We'll get to the technicalities, but basically throwing cardboard boxes out of airplanes. As far as I've read from the website, that's what it seems to be. Doing super cool stuff. So that's Joe Ifill like the tower. Don't forget that. And we also got James Newhouse here, first time in studio.
Hey, folks.
Producer. Most of the Day One homies know him as the producer of the No Gradient Show. This is his first time he's showing his jug.
Executive producer.
Executive producer. Thanks for coming on, Newhouse. Joe, what's the craziest thing you've shipped, brother?
Probably the craziest thing I've ever shipped is, it's all crazy. It's all necessary. Right. So I guess I wouldn't call it crazy. Probably the craziest place I shipped was Utuado in Puerto Rico after the hurricane, because it was just totally unreachable. There was no way to get there except for by airplane. So it was crazy useful.
So crazy useful. I like that. What were you shipping? Supplies.
Food, medicine, water, filtration, because water's really heavy. Those are the 3 big ones, and then right after that, it's telecoms, so like radios, cell phones, all that, batteries, and then finally tarps. It's housing material.
Right.
Yeah. So that's always a big thing in a hurricane of what people need, like on that week-to-week basis.
So me and Newhouse were riffing about this. How did you get the opportunity to do that? Like, did you go to them? They come to you? How did that even happen?
So that's a good one. So when we went and did airdrops in Puerto Rico, it was our first real mission. You know, we had practiced this before. We had done all the paperwork, but we never actually done it for a customer. So
this was your first.
We incorporated in September.
We did our first.
That's a hell of a start.
We did our first real mission in Puerto Rico like 3 weeks later. So it wasn't like, oh, we've been working on this for years and then finally did it. So the hurricane was just so incredibly bad. It was terrible. I flew into San Juan, and I just went to an air cargo company and said, hey, how much to rent your Cessna? And they're like, oh, here's the price. And I said, great, take the door off. We're going to go do airdrops. And then I just kept on calling nonprofits and be like, please let me ship something for you. Give me the areas that are unreachable. And eventually I found a nonprofit who was Puerto Rican based. They knew the island, they knew the needs, and they're like, we can't get to Utuado. Can you help us out? I'm like, of course I can. So that's how it started. So it just was like, I said I'll go on the phone calls. I'll make phone calls until someone says no, and no one ever said no. So we ended up doing deliveries.
So you flew in. You didn't have guaranteed business,
Correct.
and you were chasing it through the nonprofits.
Correct. Yeah. And that's what's needed. And I said, hey, if the only thing I do is go down and help, I'll never feel bad about myself. So that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
So earlier, Newhouse ignorantly said you were just throwing cardboard boxes out of airplanes. Now it's a little more technical than that. Give us a background on how you're dropping this shit out of the plane, and also what's the goal of the business in general? What's Dash Shipping?
Yeah. So I'm the founder and CEO of Dash Systems, and the Dash stands for Direct Air Shipping, although we never actually say that anywhere. And what we're doing is commercializing airdrops. What's different between us and just throwing something out of an airplane is we made systems that are really accurate. So we can usually land a package even up to a few meters from where we want it. So that just opens up the door of dropping a package into anywhere. Right. So what we came up with is software and hardware. It's a kind of combination.
Keep that mic close, brother.
Yeah.
You too, Newhouse. There we go. Now I can hear you.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what we came up with is hardware and software that work together to do it. So we basically built a civilian version of a bomb controller that all the bombing aircraft use. And it's just a map. You say, I want to land something here. It does all those little fancy calculations. You fly in a straight line, and it launches the package at the right time.
Damn.
And then we built the software so we can launch anything. So in Puerto Rico, we were using parachute boxes. In Wilmington, we were using cardboard boxes. In our testing and everything, we have our own hyper-precise package. So we basically made a civilian smart bomb. So it has
without the bomb.
So it has tail fins that move just like a smart bomb does, and it just guides itself right in.
Damn. Is there anyone else doing what you guys are doing?
No, we're the only civilian operator in the U.S. Doing this, and only one in the world really working on this problem right now. The military has airdrop technology, but no one on the civilian side does it.
So, and you talk about this a little bit on your website. Kind of drone shipping is kind of the hotness lately, right? Like, oh, Bezos is going to send you your, Newhouse, what do you buy on Amazon? Give me some.
Couple of foam rollers, last purchase.
Couple foam rollers. He's going to just come out, ship it with a drone at maybe a mile or two from the warehouse. You guys aren't doing a mile or two from the warehouse. You guys are doing hundreds, thousands of miles. That's the difference, right?
Yeah. So the biggest difference between us and drone shipping is that, hey, we can do this today legally in the U.S., and we are doing it. Right. And then we're only limited by the airplane. So a Cessna 208 can fly like 700-800 miles carrying 3,000 pounds. You're not going to do that with a drone. So what kind of stuff are you doing? So there was obviously the North Carolina example. Which hurricane was that, by the way? That was Florence. So
that was Florence, right?
Yeah. So Hurricane Florence, and then we were just in Florida for Hurricane Michael. So I was just in Panama City, Florida for Hurricane.
Got it. So far, all you've done is emergency related stuff.
Yeah, we're just focused on that market right now because in an emergency there are no delivery options, right? So FedEx, UPS, they're not delivering.
Done.
We're out there doing it.
Right. Yeah. Damn. Where'd you get the idea for this?
So my first engineering job back in 2009, I was working for Aerojet, and I was just working on smart bombs and smart missiles. So
damn, Aerojet, is that a defense contractor?
Yeah, they're a big rocket manufacturer. So if you think of any guided rocket system, Stinger, guided multiple launch rocket system, Hawk, ATACM, I was on all those contracts, and they were spinning them all up again because of Afghanistan, Iraq wars. They'd been like blowing up all these missiles, so they had to start rebuilding them. Right. So I got involved in that, and I legit felt bad about myself every day because I was going into work making bombs that were being shipped right to Afghanistan.
Damn.
So what else can I do with this technology? And that's when I came up with the idea. I was like, well, why can't I just deliver packages?
So you were thinking about this in 2009, or that's just when you started?
That's when I started thinking about it because I saw what the capability was on the military side. And at the time, I was like, this is kind of impractical. I went out and worked a whole engineering career for the next decade, and then I finally got back to it. And really what happened is the drone explosion made it so like all the components, all the technology got really cheap. So back in 2009...
That's supply chain.
Yeah, back in 2009 it actually been expensive, and now like you can go on Amazon, you can buy a $20 drone controller that's way more accurate than what's in the missiles and bombs.
Really?
Yeah, because people think about drone delivery. I said this in a conference once, like, oh, drone delivery's new. It's like, well, the first drone delivery then was when we first came up with smart bombs in the 60s and 70s. I mean, they had they had GPS guided bombs.
And all smart bomb mean is that it once you let it out of the airplane, it can steer itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And there's all the different technologies to do it. So, I mean, we've been working on that for 50 plus years now. So
Right.
there was plenty of, like that sophistication was there back in the 60s. It's
Right.
just now it's way cheaper. Now, like your smartphone has more intelligence than one of those smart bombs.
Right.
Why is that? Is that Amazon scaled it or?
It's just like cell phones really what did it, because cell phones miniaturized all the sensors and the cost of them. So
Yeah.
like, old cruise missile would cost like $100,000 or whatnot, and now you could like the same intelligence is probably like what $5-10 maybe.
Right.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
Damn. So what's your so you're doing hurricane stuff, which is cool. I mean it's obviously getting your it's getting the name out there. It's fucking badass. What's the next goal for using this for regular civilian use, non-emergency use?
Yeah, so we're scaling into commercial deliveries right now.
Okay.
A lot of it is in hard-to-reach areas. We're talking Alaska, islands, kind of places similar to a disaster zone where you just don't have good shipping options. So
Right.
Alaska's a perfect example. Once winter rolls around, a lot of those villages are fly-in only, and if it's foggy, they won't land the airplane because they can't.
Right.
So they just have a very big need for getting deliveries just year-round.
Right.
So walk us through how the logistics of that would work. Where would the shipment come from? Where would it go?
Yeah,
And-
so we just start at a normal airport like any air cargo company. We don't own airplanes, so we
Right.
kind of train our technology and give it to air cargo operators.
Right.
So you just load
Are any of your employees on the planes?
Yes, right. As of right now, it's usually one of our load masters who does the training and is
Load master.
As the load master, yeah. So that's the military term of the guy who was like in charge of everything in the back of the airplane is the load
Right.
master. So we train up a load master right now when we put him in the back seat, but we're actually training up other people to do that. And it just flies like a normal airplane. You have an intelligent pallet, so you put everything on top of a pallet.
Right.
Software does its thing. When it gets in the right spot, it just launches everything out the back door.
So I saw a picture on the website. I think someone literally holding a cardboard box and leaning out a window.
That was me.
That was you.
that was me in Puerto Rico. We had started so fast we didn't have time to build a pallet launcher.
Right.
So it was just me listening to the software and throwing it out when it told me to it. But now it's more accurate if you just let the software launch the packages themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn. That's insane. So you just got back from Hong Kong.
Correct.
This guy's jet lag. You're supposed to meet at noon. He's like, oh, maybe it's 1. Let's do 1 because I'm jet lagged. We show up. It's random girls leaving. Anyway, you just got 140K and then added 10K at some pitch competition. Tell me about that. What's the deal there?
Yeah, so there was the Epic Pitch Competition, which took place in Hong Kong. It was really interesting. You actually had to do an elevator pitch. So you're in the tallest building in Hong Kong, the ICC building. It's like over 100 stories. And you had from the first story to the 100th story
Damn.
in the elevator with the judges to do your pitch. And if you won that 60-second pitch, then you got to go on to the main stage and do a 3-minute pitch. So I won both. So I won my little heat. I did my elevator pitch.
Right.
I went to the main stage, and I won the whole thing.
Give us the elevator pitch.
Pass.
Yes.
I've actually forgotten it because it's like I just put it in short-term memory, so I practiced it a lot.
And you just dumped it
And
out.
then I just dumped it out. So actually, yeah, and then the 3-minute pitch, I had to go into the bathroom and then sit there for like an hour and just like make one up and memorize it.
Right.
So I don't actually remember them. Like I don't even remember the high-level ones. I actually struggle giving it. Yeah, so it was a big honor. The Hong Kong government science park paid for me to come out and do it.
Right.
Yeah, 100 startups from all over the world.
Holy
and,
shit.
You know, we can still hold our own on the big stage.
All in shipping or very broad?
All over the place. Biotech, robotics, AI, business, fintech. I mean, it was everything.
You had all the buzzwords to compete with.
Yes, we did. So yeah, and I'll never say this before I do a pitch competition, but we've never lost a pitch competition. We've won and we came in first place every single time. So I always feel good going into them. And
Newhouse, look at this guy.
Yeah, that's epic.
Dude, that's huge.
You know what? And it was a learned skill. A lot of people are just really bad at telling a story and doing it quickly, especially technical people. They want to really get like bogged down into all the technical details.
Right.
And I always tell people in my company, like, you don't actually care how I throw a package out of the airplane.
Right.
You
Right.
just want your package on time at the right cost. Like nothing else really matters to you.
Right.
So like all the cool factor, like I was like, yeah, no, we just throw it out of the airplane. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, but really all you care about is you get your package on time.
Right.
So for the pitch competition, like I don't really talk about the technology. I just talked about, hey, what does this unlock? Like, what's the goodness that comes from doing this?
Right.
And just like all the details, I just kind of like put on the side.
What are you doing with that money?
We are reinvesting it into our business. We are growing. We have a lot of orders for our products, so we're actually starting to commercialize and build everything out. So that's like a good little chunk of money to start that. Yeah.
What? How many employees do you have right now?
We are 3 full-time. We just lost our intern, our full-time intern. He went to Stanford. So
Damn, you guys got an intern. Damn, I'm still looking for an intern.
yeah, so 3 full-time. We're a small company. We're
Right.
hoping to grow right now. Actually, we have a few other engineers on contract and everything. We're just going to start scaling up.
Damn, right on.
Yeah.
So you said you've been thinking of this idea for damn near a decade now, but when did you make the decision to dive in, and what was that experience like? From okay, this is an idea. Were you working on this on the side while having your day job? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so I had been a solo entrepreneur for a few years. I did some consumer product companies. I made shot glasses. I'll actually give you guys one. I still have some extra ones in my house.
Thank you.
So I did some of those solo things, and then I was working at senior.
Were you working a full-time job while doing this stuff?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
always working a full-time job. I had never made enough money to like. There's a hard thing. The more money you make, the harder it is to like stop making it. Right? I got a house. I got bills.
Yeah.
So it's hard to just like put that all aside and make. Oh, I want to go make $5 an hour while I work on a company.
Right.
So some of those other solo ones never made enough money where it's like, oh, I can comfortably quit. So about 2 years ago, I was working full-time as an engineer, and I was like, you know what? Like, now's the time. Like, I saw all the drone delivery stuff, and I'm like, this is kind of stupid.
Right.
There's a better
It's
idea
kinda stupid.
out there.
Oh wait, so I'm curious. Before you think this is kind of stupid?
But the drone delivery, I think, is kind of stupid.
So you think even the whole Amazon Bezos thing, like that, and that, so you don't see where kind of smart warehouses, if you will, all kind of scattered around a city, and then just drones taking off, leaving, dropping off on your front yard.
The math doesn't work out. I'll say this. So I actually,
that.
I love that.
I went to a drone conference. I went to Drone Focus, and I gave a speech.
Drone focus.
I gave a speech about it. It was like going into like the sharks. What about?
And you told them all to go fuck themselves.
Basically, so they're like, oh, well, can you give because like, oh, you're in drone delivery. Can you give a talk on the unit economics of drone delivery?
Right.
And I'm like, sure. And my first slide is like the unit economics don't work out. Like the end. And then my second slide was a picture of the Hindenburg saying, this is the.
Dude,
So,
look
like-
at you.
So I was like, oh man, I'm going in here. I'm basically telling you guys are all stupid. This is a terrible idea. The unit economics don't work out. It flies in the history of aviation, the history of like aerospace. I don't want to spend all time, but
Yeah.
basically put, if we did drone delivery and even hit like a fraction of the package load of FedEx or UPS, it would be millions of flight hours a day. And then if you just like multiply that by the crash rate, not even like the fatality rate, just the crash rate of airplanes today, it would be hundreds of crashes a day. And they're going to land in your house, your neighbor's house, preschools. Think of all the bad places an airplane can crash, and
Yeah.
it's going to land there.
Well, so hold on. When I say drone, though, I'm thinking of a little thing with 4 propellers.
Even a little one, if that lands on your head, you're going to have a bad
Right,
day.
okay,
And I mean,
so-
the Amazon one, that one I think weighs like 50-ish pounds. I mean, it's not.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna ruin your day if it lands on your head.
It's got a big old delivery box as well, too.
Yeah. So it just doesn't make sense to actually.
Wow.
There's a few like contextual places like delivering to an oil rig, delivering to a little small island where there's no other way.
Right.
But for us in a major city like LA, it's never gonna.
Wow. So I learned so all this stuff I'm seeing on the news, all these tech websites covering this drone, it's all bullshit.
More or less.
More or less.
Yes.
So then last mile delivery, you still think is just good old vehicle on the road.
Or you're gonna get ground robots. Like once you get a self-driving car, then
Game over.
it's game over.
Put a smart pallet on that.
Boom.
Fart it out your front to the front
Yeah,
yard.
It's game over. Yeah. So I always say this, and I'll take any of these guys to court, or not to court, but
Yes.
we've delivered more pounds than every drone delivery startup combined in the U.S. today with 3 people.
In how many months?
In 12 months. And I don't have Jeff Bezos' money. I don't have Google's money. Fundamentally, our technology just works way better.
So you threw out a 50-pound dumbbell over Puerto Rico, and you just beat every drone company. in the United States. How many pounds though have you moved?
Over 5,000.
Over 5,000
in the U.S. Yeah.
Damn, right on. Okay, so we went on a tangent. If we wind back the tapes, you remember we were talking about how you were getting started, and then you shat on drones for a few minutes. So get back to that.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I was working full time as an engineer, and I was really,
where
at Senior Aerospace.
Okay, so you were in. Well, is that a defense contractor?
No, they're a first-tier aerospace contractor. They make tubes and tube accessories. So, yeah, but...
that's sexy.
Every airplane you've ever flown on probably has a Senior Aerospace.
I'm in the tube accessory business.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, exactly. So, piccolo tubes, exhaust ducts, exhaust ports.
Oh, stop, brother.
Ball joints.
Oh, God.
Joints.
You're making me crazy. Damn.
But, it's one of those stable first-tier aerospace companies. Everyone from the F-16, C-130, down to, your A-320s, they all have our parts on them.
So I got a question. This is another tangent.
Yeah.
SpaceX.
What about them?
There's a lot of hype around, rockets, boom, bam, going to Mars. Do you have any thoughts on that? Just shoot from the hip.
Yeah. So I worked in aerospace. I worked on rockets. I do not like SpaceX.
Triggered.
They have they have this terrible reputation for how they treat their employees, and I think it's about the journey, not about the destination, right? So if you get there on the
unless the destination's Mars, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. So
I'm just kidding. No, you're right.
Because all these young engineers I want to work at aerospace. I want to work at SpaceX. I'm like, why? We worked on the exact same. Actually, we make some of the same tubes. We don't make them for SpaceX, but for other rocket companies, and it's it's all the same work. And at SpaceX, you're going to just be treated terribly the entire time.
Right. Okay. So workers aside, workers' rights aside, do you think that some of this talk of going to Mars and just some of the narrative around this is that feasible? Is it even something we should even focus on? Is there too much attention on it? Do we have other problems to solve?
You know what? That's way above my pay grade.
Damn, but, dude, I don't know anything about this, and I have opinions on it.
Yeah. So I will always, I'll never, exploration, space, I'm a big fan of it. I always wanted to be an astronaut, so I'll never say no to that. Right. So anyone encouraging, exploration and conquering the stars, I'm all for it.
I think the more you learn about something, the more you learn that you don't know much about that thing.
Right,
exactly.
That's why I try to...
Because I can tell you anything about SpaceX right now.
Yeah.
I think I can talk more about it than you. You've been in the industry a decade. No. Okay, cool. Okay, so that was another tangent. So 2 years, you were at that company, and then 2 years ago, boom, what was the deciding, I'm going to stop getting this paycheck every couple weeks to
before I, built the single thing, I just worked in the paperwork for about a year. So we did our own trade studies, it's called. So you just did all the math, do the unit economics work out.
Right.
Then I did all the FAA paperwork and how can I do this legally? So I did all that first. And then the next thing I did was I got my co-founder Joe involved, and he's a way better engineer than me. Okay. So, actually, fun story. He had a chance to be SpaceX employee number less than number 20, really early in, and he turned it down.
To join you guys?
No, because that was a decade ago. He turned it down to work on his own stuff. He didn't think Elon Musk could get to space for the amount of money he said he could, which was true. So he's I don't want to work for this, billionaire, because he said, I'm going to get to space for $150 million. And he's that's not possible. And it's true. It took him $800 million.
Right. So
he's no, this doesn't seem realistic. He turned it down, and he went and did his own thing. Anyways, but he's an amazing aerospace design engineer. So I just started asking hey, how would you design this? How would you design this? And he eventually just came on board. And he's the one who actually did all the aerospace design work. So all the package design, that's all him.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started working on it just nights and weekends, a couple hours here and there. Damn. And then found our first outside investors. So shout outs to Sean Aurora and Macon LA. They were our first outside investors.
Macon LA?
Macon LA is up in Chatsworth.
Is that's a VC?
Yeah, and they're a hardware accelerator, so they only invest in hardware companies, which we are.
Nice.
They have an open application process, so I applied to that, didn't think much of it. Then we got in the program, and then that was enough money to quit my job, start working full time.
Quick side question. Hardware VC, is that bigger in LA because of aerospace? Or is it not
love
the
that.
capital?
I wish that was the case. Sadly, I mean, Silicon Valley's still bigger than everything,
Right.
but LA is the place for hardware. We got more manufacturing in LA County than any county in the U.S.
Yeah.
And most people don't realize that.
No, they don't. They think Hollywood, the biggest industry here is aerospace and defense.
Yep.
Don't forget the oil, gentlemen.
All right.
I could throw my hat in the ring too.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So in my opinion, like LA is still the best place for manufacturing in the U.S. I mean, it's
Right.
great for it. So we're gonna stay in LA.
Damn.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so you get the funding. You quit your job. You have. Does your other homie quit his job at this point?
He was already working for himself, so
Okay.
he was consulting on the side and everything. So he
Right.
had no job to quit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's 2 years of the math works out. You're talking to the FAA. Me and Newhouse were riffing on this. First of all, how old are you, brother?
I am 32.
32. Okay, so is it hard when you're talking to these government organizations getting taken seriously, like working with these big bureaucracies? Was that a big of a roadblock, or what's the deal there?
So luckily, I'd already done it so much in my career.
Right.
I knew how to talk to the FAA, and I used to work at a national lab, so I came from the government side.
Right. Okay.
So I know how to. I wouldn't say play that game. It's just like talking to them different than you talk to like a for-profit company.
Right.
So I was able to kind of walk them into a corner of like, this has to be legal, and they agreed. So
Oh my god.
yeah. So, and without giving away all the secrets, but because everyone's
Right.
like, this can't be legal. I'm like, well, it's like we went to them. It's like, you can throw a person out of an airplane, right? Yeah, it's all skydiving, right? And you can throw like frozen poo out of a jetliner. They like.
Oh, they freeze that shit?
Yeah, and then they throw it out. They just like, there's a little like exhaust port, and they're like, bloop. So like about like once every few years, you'll hear like it'll go through someone's roof, and they'll be like, at the dining room table, like, wah,
Oh, wait. Are these just domestic, not even over the ocean?
Yeah, just domestic flights. They freeze it and then they like launch it out. Oh, actually, I don't think they freeze it. I think it freezes as it's falling because it's so cold. Yeah.
So if you can launch shit out of an airplane,
yeah.
why not launch a box?
So that was basically how he walked him into it. It's like I can. It's already legal to throw stuff out of airplanes.
Right.
And all you have to do, you have to prove how you can do it safely.
Right.
And with skydiving, you're like, okay, because you can you can get a permit. You can like skydive and land on the beach in Venice or like in a football stadium. You can do it around people.
Right.
You just have to prove you can do it safely. So,
Right.
so what we all did was just prove we could do it safely, and then we avoided all the drone regulations. So we're not considered a drone. So everything we do is
All that
not
baggage.
is not drone delivery. So that's why we can do it today legally.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn. So what is it about, like, to prove that you could do that safely? What kind of stuff to just prove that the software works, that when you're over a certain point and the trajectory is going to launch at the appropriate time and stuff like that, like proving the models to them, or what was that process
and that
like?
gets a little bit into the secret stuff we
Ooh,
don't
okay,
talk
well,
about.
we back out. Yeah,
Yeah, because unique to aerospace is like aerospace and medical, where you have to prove your process, right?
Right.
So like making a pill is really cheap, but proving why it's safe to to give that pill to
Right.
human is really expensive. So it's same in aerospace. Like anyone can make an airplane, and you can build an airplane really cheap, but it's really expensive to prove that you can certify it to fly people.
Right. How is this? Newhouse, go ahead.
How long does that testing process take? In medicine, for example, it takes a couple of years at least.
So in FAA, like a Part 21 certification, which is certifying a new commercial aircraft that could carry people, it's a couple years.
Right.
Ours is not under Part 21, so we don't have to certify the airframe, as it were. So it was really like how long it took us to accumulate and gather all the information. Yeah.
And that's where having 10 years of experience, you want to avoid Part 21.
Oh
You
yeah.
can streamline that, right?
Yeah, so and we avoid Part 107, which is the drone regulation. So like there's a lot of subtlety in our engineering that you just can't see from looking at it. That was all designed to fit within the current regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So what surprised me so much about this is it seems like an amazing idea. What has this? You say you're the only company, one of the only companies doing this right now. How is this not more popular? What has been holding people back? It seems like I've seen stuff like this happen before. I don't know, in the movies. People
Well,
throwing
and
shit
on
out.
top of that, can a larger player just see what you're doing, copy you, and scale.
You sound like investors.
Damn.
So to answer your first question, why isn't more
Right.
people doing it? So the military does it, and you think of like invading
Right.
Normandy, they would send in troops and everything and
Right.
tanks. So they have the technology. But the military's technology was never at like a commercial price point. So like,
Right.
they're willing to pay $20,000 to get a tank in there. You're not willing to pay that much for like
Right.
a pallet of water. So there's that side of it. And actually, if you go way back in the history of air cargo, so we're actually right at the 100-year anniversary of the start of the air mail service, which was 1919. And back in those days, they didn't have airports, so they would just take the bag of mail, they just throw it out the side of the airplane and like right to the local post office because they had they're flying a little biplane going like 80 miles an hour. They just throw it out. So like we're actually coming back full circle to what we did 100 years ago. So what changed is that we have like an automated process that fits all the paperwork that's legal and is cost effective. And before, you really didn't have that. So if you were like a small bush pilot, every once in a while they'll throw something out of
What's a
airplane.
bush pilot?
Like a bush pilot is a guy who flies like way out in the bush, way out in the countryside.
Okay, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like in Africa and Alaska they have bush pilots.
Yeah.
So like they will occasionally do it in an emergency, but they're like, well, I'm not qualified. I don't want to practice. I don't want to train.
Right.
I don't know how to do this legally and safely, so I just won't do it. So that's really what it boils down to.
Got it. And what about this whole getting
Oh.
copied thing? You
Oh,
worried
yeah.
about that?
No.
Yes.
So-
Dude, you're a confident man.
Yeah, so there's a lot of expertise in what we do that just not just I'm kind of always really flippant, like we just throw stuff out of airplanes.
No,
But there's
we're
a-
impressed. Don't
yeah,
worry. We
there's a
don't think
lot
it's
of stuff going on behind the scenes,
Right.
and it's not just like something you can just copy, like let's just look at their hardware and we'll just copy it and do it. Because again, it's really what it takes to certify this with the FAA
Right.
to come to that legal basis of here's how we're going to do it safely, and repeatedly, and make sure we never hit someone else. And that just takes a lot of time to scale that side up. And every time we do a drop, we get better. So we're always getting further ahead. So when I look at FedEx, those guys are not like innovation organizations, right? They fly the same airplanes they've been flying for 30 years on the same routes.
Right.
Like they don't have any capacity to innovate. And most of air cargo is like that. So all the defense contractors could copy us. They already have all the expertise, but they're just too busy doing defense contracts. They don't do civilian work.
Paid $1 million to ship one tank. They're not.
Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
we've talked to some of those guys too, and like they're like, no, if I can't sell it to the government, I'm not interested. So
Damn. What is it about working with the government that's so attractive? Just fat contracts?
yeah, and then you like win once for 30, 40 years, like you'll be making the same thing and you'll be making spare parts for it for 20, 30 years. Yeah, so it's
Right.
like this really, it's like great predictable, just
Steady
baseline work.
income.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there's like usually a big split, like Raytheon, Lockheed, they don't make civilian aircraft anymore. They only make stuff for the government. Damn. Yeah.
What's been the hardest part about all this?
The hardest part?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Is social life taking a hit? Has just been hard to get the concept working? What's the deal?
The hardest part always is, as an entrepreneur, just as a whole, you never actually know if you're doing the right thing. And it sounds like, what? No, you should, it should be easy.
You seem pretty sure, brother.
These are all the things I now know I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
So as an entrepreneur, you might be trying to make a sale and you won't hear anything for 8 months. You're like, oh, I just wasted all this time. And then all of a sudden they'll pick up the phone like a year later, be like, all right, we're ready to do a deal.
Right.
So like a lot of times it's just like you're doing work, you're making presentations for investors or this or that, and you never know how it's going to go. And you have no feedback mechanism. Like, what should I improve? What should I change? Because you're truly forging new ground. Like, I can't look at any other company and be like, well, how do they do airdrops?
Right.
I have to figure it all out, So then if I second guess myself, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm spending my last money. Should I spend it on trying to attract an investor or try to do more deliveries?
Right.
You never know. There's all these decision gates, and you'll never have like
Decision gates.
just the right answer just come to you.
Yeah.
You guys got some decent runway right now?
Oh yeah, we're doing great.
Oh yes. Good. So going in the next
Hey,
question.
we're a company that doesn't need runways to land airplanes, so we don't even care about
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, right on. We don't need runway. So what's the next 5 years look like? Like what's kind of the master? Ideally, what's the master plan? And also, are you thinking exits right now in terms of getting bought or anything like that? Just walk me through that.
It's a little early to think about exits. I just
Right.
think about growth. So
Right.
when we did our own math, I mean, this market is huge. There's so much room for growth, and there's so many people in the world that just they just don't get packages fast. When I say fast, I mean like under 5 days.
Right.
So if you look at all of Alaska, it's like 98% of Alaska has no guaranteed 5-day or better delivery option.
Right.
So I think, and they're already paying for air cargo because you got to fly stuff into these villages and everything. So it's not like they're not used to paying the price. They just don't have fast deliveries. So what we look at, we see this whole market of all these places that don't have fast deliveries that would just be dying for like a 1 or 2 day guaranteed delivery option, and we're just attacking that. So that's why we're like out in Alaska, out in the Caribbean. It's all these places that are hard to get to.
Right.
Related to that, what's the next country? What are the next places that you can enter, and what are the barriers there in terms of regulatory, ground logistics, knowing people, etc.?
That's a good one. So, just so we're not everywhere all at once, we've been focusing like 100% on the U.S. and the Caribbean. So that's like Puerto Rico, a lot of those Caribbean islands, Alaska, and then it's the middle of the country.
Right.
That's where we see our growth. There's no barriers to entry on the legal side. From a business side, it's always just making connections. A lot of it is no one thinks what we do is possible, even though we've already done it many times. So people just flat out say like, no, this is not possible.
Well, I don't understand. It seems like a very straightforward. I mean, so this could be my not knowing kind of thing. It seems straightforward to me. Like places you can't get to with road. You don't want to wait. There's no landing strip. How else are you gonna get packages delivered on the ground? Okay, you're gonna drop the payload out of an airplane. So what is people's mental block here? Because this seems like
yeah.
I have some money in my wallet. I'd like to invest right now. But that's what I'm saying.
No, that's a good one. So the barriers on the aviation side is aviation companies are like very, very conservative, right? Because they get paid to do the same thing over and over,
Right.
which is like, how do I optimize flying my airplane? So there is a little bit of, even though we've solved it, there's always a little bit of risk for them being like, well, I've never heard of airdrops. I don't get paid to do airdrops. I get paid to fly my airplane to an airport. So
Right.
so originally we thought like, oh, they're going to be our customers. It'd be really easy to sell to them. Like, hey, buy this, you get more business. Instead,
When you
we'll
say
buy like our whole
smart
system.
pallet
Yeah,
system?
buy our
Okay.
whole system, buy our software, our hardware. We'll give you more
Right.
business, and really kind of turn more into like we'll find the customers and we'll just lease your plane from you, and you'll get paid like the bare bones to fly the plane, and we'll get the profit from actually doing this.
Right.
So that kind of changed, or it had to change. I think that's the biggest barrier. And then for any logistics system or technology, you always need scale. So if you just want me to get like a bottle of beer to you on a island,
I would love that.
I'm probably not cost effective because I have to rent a whole plane.
Right.
But if you have like 500 pounds of beer to get to you,
Right.
I can do it no problem.
So like a remote Caribbean island, for example, what is a product that is being shipped there?
Everything. So if you think about all those Caribbean islands, my family's from Barbados,
Nice.
on my father's side. So if you think of all those remote islands, like Barbados is only like 100,000 people. I mean, it's like
Right.
a city size,
Right.
and their airport's tiny. So if you want anything under 5 days,
Yeah.
you have to ship it. It's more like under 2 weeks because a boat from Miami is going to take 2 weeks to get down there. So you have to fly it in. So like housing material, gas, all that type of stuff, it's all flown in. Food, anything
Right.
that's not local, that's not bulk, like wheat or something like that,
Right.
you're going to fly it in. So like fresh beef is going to be flown in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everything's really expensive in those areas. So it's like this weird thing. Like even though they get everything slow, they're paying way more than we were paying in the
Yeah.
domestic U.S. for deliveries.
Are you able to show the cost savings to the
Yeah.
Barbados people?
So we're about
Barbadians.
the Bajans.
The Bajans.
Is that what it
Bajans.
is? It's Bajans?
It's Bajan. It's like the super obscure. I wouldn't expect it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
Bajan. So we're about in the whole Caribbean as we have model. We're about 2x cheaper and 5 times faster.
Okay.
Because
Wow.
we can just conglomerate everything on one bigger airplane and then hit multiple islands in one flight.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are you reusing the payload you launch out? I assume there's padding, or unless you're using a.
And I actually because I brought it to Hong Kong, I can show you guys a little
fun.
mock-up. Yeah.
Okay, well we'll have to check that out.
Yeah. So in the disaster logistics, nothing's reusable.
Right.
It's so hard to get where you're going. Like you're not expecting anything back.
Right.
When we talk about routine commercial deliveries, yeah, it's reusable. So the whole tail kit, all the electronics is reusable. That's kind of the expensive
So
part.
at some point you got to recover that stuff.
Yeah, and we really say our solution's like a pallet solution. So just like people don't usually own their own pallets, like trucking companies, like a pallet company owns them. We're kind of the same model. So like you basically like renting a ride on a pallet, and then you have to give the pallet back.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of it's like on the outbound flights, we just put the empty pallets on or put them on with more supplies.
Yeah, but you got to land for that.
Correct.
Okay, so at some point there's...
Yeah, so some point... So
Right.
it's just like, this is the pallet model, right? You know, you give out all the pallets for one-day delivery, and then if you get them back a week later, you don't care, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of how the model works.
Right. I'm curious about... have any of the tariffs with the trade war going on with China right now, or any of the treaties where, you know, the new deal with NAFTA, has that affected the way you do business at all, or having to get your hardware or anything like that?
It hasn't personally affected us in like a global sense of like, oh, we changed what we're doing.
Right.
But the tariffs are real. It hit the whole metal industry really hard, which hit aerospace really hard because we're using usually much more expensive alloys than like your average car. So it's like a 10-20% increase in metal prices. It's kind of across the board right now.
Damn.
So, and a lot of those specialty alloys like titanium, all that, they only come from like a few foundries somewhere in the world. So, great time to be in the foundry business, I guess, or in the metals commodity business. Yeah. So, but that's kind of like a very global sense. You know, it hasn't like fundamentally changed the cost of us doing business. Right.
You're not worried about it.
Not yet.
Not yet. Right on. Well, this is a super. So I'm living in San Francisco, and everyone and their mom has an idea about like an app or some software thing, and it's just software. It's so refreshing to hear about something that like, oh, here's an actual problem. We need to get things to people, and we're gonna do that by sending them out of a plane. So I really vibe with this idea, and I think it's fucking awesome, brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you riffing. Newhouse.
Likewise.
First of all, well, hold on. Go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say, people like think, oh, hardware is so much harder to do. Software is easy. You know, you can have like 1 billion Instagram, users 2 years later.
Right.
But like fundamentally, we're still physical people in a physical world. And shipping is just not solved. There's just so many places in the world where you just can't get things. So like there is so much money and opportunity here just to help the whole world out.
Right, and it seems like a lot of people are focused on moving bits across the tube.
Yeah, exactly. And
let them get distracted by it. That makes it easy
I mean,
for you.
and I'm not even bitter. It's like like Instagram's great, but it didn't change the world, right? It didn't like people are like, oh, my life was saved by Instagram. Maybe someone, but like comparatively, like when we were delivering supplies in Las Marias and Utuado, they had gone without a delivery for over 2 weeks. Like people were gonna die.
They had gone without posting Instagram for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they actually had no power and communicate. But that is like something fundamental. Like we can actually help the world by it's like medicine deliveries to hospitals in rural locations. Like these are not solved problems. So there's just a tremendous opportunity there.
Right. So I actually like what you touched on, and I've riffed with Pat Daly, who's good friend of Newhouse as well. I had him on the podcast, and we were riffing on this, and Newhouse has some thoughts on this as well. We were talking about how the technological changes today. For example, you take the car or the airplane, those two inventions have had he was arguing that they've had a much bigger impact. I think, a lot of people would argue this, have had a much bigger impact on humanity than, say, something like the iPhone or Facebook or Google. Like those are big deals, but they're not. Oh, I can now get across the fucking Atlantic in 5 hours. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on just where innovation and technology are we slowing down? Are the things we're solving, like you said, not real problems? I'm curious where your headspace is on that.
That's like a whole like hour-long conversation right there. I mean, I would agree with that. Like the car, the automobile, the airplane, I mean, those fundamentally changed society. Right. If you look at just how LA is laid out, it just changed because of cars and like the thought of everyone owning their own car. Right. So I mean, those were like things that like shaped
or
society.
their own armored truck.
Yeah,
right?
hey, but Google, like, cities didn't change because Google came about. I mean, it's a process improvement. People are
Right.
lazy and they let you just find out information faster, which is huge. But that's like fundamentally not the same as like moving people or stuff around. So is it speeding up or slowing down? No, I think it's always kind of going at the same pace. It's just sometimes we find something out that like fundamentally changes everything, and sometimes we're just improving what we have around us. So right now, and you could never predict it. So like there's a lot of stuff going on with like gene editing and everything, and like
Right.
I don't even know what the implications are going to be in 5 or 10 years from now,
Right.
but we're going to find out. Versus stuff like in aerospace, there's really not a lot new happening. Like the new airplanes are like 5% more fuel efficient than the last ones, which is
Well, what about it's now cheaper to deliver put things into orbit now, right? Isn't it significantly cheaper?
it
for
is,
reusable
and
rockets?
and there's like, and having a launch company is so hot right now. Like every billionaire has one, and
Right.
everything. So like that is really interesting, but still there's this weird thing that's like, hey, it's cheaper to get stuff in orbit, and you're like, great, satellites, and then you're like, well, what else? Like there's still
Right.
like what else can you do with it,
Right.
So I think a lot of those other ideas of like going to Mars and everything, like there's no economic justification, which is not a bad thing. It's just like, why are we actually doing it, or like who's actually
Right.
going to pay for it to set up a colony on Mars?
Right.
I don't know. I don't have the answers to these questions. I'm just asking.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think yeah, for me, I think it's easy to look at something like you look at a car or an airplane, or like like penicillin or something. That was a big fucking deal, I heard. It's like it's real, it's very tangible. Whereas something like the internet or Google, or the iPhone is actually definitely it's definitely tangible. But I think the effects of those things, like for me personally, I think the internet, just all of a sudden, most 2 billion people now have, I think like 5 billion people have phones, and like several billion, a little less than that, have smartphones. So we're getting to a point where we're starting to connect every individual on the planet. And I'm not even just talking about emerging markets, right? We're talking about even just people in the United States, like we saw with this. Not to get involved in the election, but the gatekeepers, that used to kind of control media and what people would talk about, what people could watch on TV. All of a sudden, me and Newhouse's dumbass can post something on YouTube, and we're doing it. And I think fundamentally, like I can tweet something out. People are just, the gatekeepers are done. So I think that's one thing that I think we're still grappling with right now. Newspapers are still trying to figure out, okay, how the fuck are we going to do this? Is it ads? Is it paywalls? Is it? So I think we're still kind of, but I think that is going to be, it's already been huge. I think it's one of the reasons that, no major newspaper, endorsed Trump, basically. And he fucking won. And I think a lot of that is just direct message to the people. You don't need, these kind of big institutions telling you what to think or do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which is, I think
it's a double-edged sword.
Right,
There's benefits to it, and there's negatives, because
Right.
anyone can also lie on the internet or make up a video,
Totally.
and post it and go viral and be like, wow, like this
Right.
person's a terrible person. Like, well, no, they just lied, and it's
Right.
really hard to like fact check it.
Right.
So you can really easily surround yourself with confirmation bias and like only hear what you want to hear, and believe in conspiracy theories, all that type of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we solved a lot of the base level problems. We no longer believe, for example, that to bleed out is the best way to cure an illness. So we've solved a lot of the base level problems. We have excess funding to solve any problem that can be profitable, and that's where you see quotes like, a lot of the smartest minds in our generation are figuring out how to best do advertising.
Yeah.
Which is true, but what Joe is showing is that there are a lot of cracks in the system, a lot of untapped places that can actually improve quality of life. But also, in addition to that, there's a lot of new problems that we've created that we also have to solve.
Right.
One of them obviously being climate change. But so
Yeah.
there's always going to be things that we need to be figuring out from a technical perspective. And so I kind of agree that the rate of progress that actually benefits humanity will only continue.
Yeah.
Damn. And dash shipping is part of that.
Hey.
First of all, this has been epic. But before we go, what the fuck? So we're just What the fuck are we in right now? What is it?
So we're sitting in my
open with this, by the way. That's on you, Newhouse.
That's right, executive producer.
You can do a hard cut right now.
No, we don't edit, brother.
All right, no edits.
We don't edit.
Do it live.
Do it
All
live,
right.
exactly.
So we are in my armored truck. This is a 1996 International 4700 armored truck. It's a long story on how I got it, but basically I was supposed to buy a tank, a Soviet tank. The deal.
I hate when that happens. You try to buy a tank.
Dude,
you actually get the
I had all the paperwork done and everything. I was supposed to import a Soviet tank from the Czech Republic, and then I was like, this is not a good idea. So I ended up buying an armored truck instead, which was a good idea. So in my original thought was I'm going to turn it into a party bus. Never actually did that, and instead we turned it into a little mobile workspace. So this is actually the old escape hatches. So they're really heavy, about 50 pounds, but they actually do lift up, and then you can escape. Or in the summertime, you just pop them off, and you got a nice little
chill spot.
Yeah. So we've been turning it into our work area. So you'll see some tool chests over there. The only thing we have left to do is put in our little workbenches. Got a generator underneath. So we do a lot of testing at airports, and we have a whole mobile workstation and everything.
So this thing moves.
Oh yeah, I just took out the seats to paint the floor, but
nice.
it still drives, it starts, everything like that.
Damn.
And I tell you, it's a lot of fun to drive armored truck. Yeah, so
That's epic.
So yeah, it weighs 16,000 pounds, can stop bullets.
Shit.
What else do you need? Yeah, all the windows are a couple inches. I mean, look at these windows behind you; they're 3 inches thick.
Damn, that is epic.
So yeah. So
and it's pretty easy to get a tank then. It's legal to get a Soviet tank though.
surprisingly,
How
yeah,
much does something like that cost?
surprisingly cheap. Which is why I was so tempted. So you can buy a fully working one, like a T-34, for maybe $12,000. Because during World War or during the Cold War, they just built them by the tens of thousands.
Right.
We were in an arms race. And then, so you'll have some little depot in the Czech Republic with 1,000 of them sitting there, and we haven't they all start and they all run, and we haven't driven them since 1980. So if they can get $1 over the scrap rate, they'll just sell it to you.
I love that you settled for an armored truck.
Yeah.
Wait, so there must be some rules that it can't be.
They have to demill the gun, so they will drill a hole and weld a thing in the middle of the barrel, so you can't shoot them. And if you pay the right people, wink wink, in Eastern Europe, you can probably get a non-demilled barrel. That's pretty much it.
It must cost more than $12,000 just to ship it, though.
Yeah, actually, it was $7 or $8 grand on the shipping cost to get it to a port in New Jersey or New York,
and then you just drive it from Jersey. Yeah.
Well, then you have to get a flatbed to ship it out. So yeah, it would end up being about another. It was gonna be about 25-ish to get it to my door. I was living in Pennsylvania at the time, but the real thing is those things, the engine weighs 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. You need a crane and you need a workshop just to pull the engine or just to change the oil. I mean, they're ridiculous.
Are they street legal?
That one I was getting was street legal, but most of them aren't because they're too wide.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks like this is an actual tank with.
This one was wheeled, so it was really
Okay.
This one was wheeled, so that's that's a good one. So it's impossible to get a treaded vehicle street legal in the U.S.
Got it.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Got it,
You
but-
can get parade plates on them and everything, and special use permits, but you can't get them street legal anywhere.
Damn.
Yeah, but a wheel vehicle you can, as long as some other basic rules are followed. Yeah.
Okay, Joel. Well, dude, we really appreciate you sitting down and riffing with us. I was looking at the website. Newhouse was telling me "Yo, dude, we should get this guy on." I was like, "Okay, cool." I was reading that. I was like, "Oh, what's the deal here?" But now, dude, I'm fucking sold on this. I think this is really, really cool. I think you know your shit. Obviously,
Thank you.
I don't know anything about it, so take that with a grain of salt. But you sound smart to me. So yeah, thanks for coming out. I'm excited to check in with you in a few years and see what the deal is. Don't forget me and Newhouse when
That's
you're
right.
Never.
dropping champagne pallets out of your planes.
Yeah.
Right on. Newhouse, close it out, brother.
Likewise, it's been an honor being here.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come down here.
Absolutely.
Catch me anywhere. Catch me on my new show. I have a new show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Plug that shit. Plug that.
Risky Biz, Facebook Watch it live. It's actually really funny. I get punched by Chuck Liddell. Check it out.
Wait, Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell, the MMA fighter, punched me.
Were you wearing anything?
No, it hurt
Where did he punch you?
in the stomach. right in the feels.
So
No, I didn't even have like a warning. He just like boom. I mean, no, he's a nice guy. I don't want to like say he's not an anger problem, but he'd punch me, and he wasn't. He wasn't like giving like a full power. But
So how do you have time for risky biz?
he's retired.
No, not you, brother.
Oh, me? Oh,
You're trying to get a company off the ground.
You make time. I mean, so it was a lifelong dream to be a host of a TV show. I'm not going to turn that down.
Right.
So,
so you're the host of this thing.
I'm the host of a show. I do shows. I've been doing shows as like a side hobby for like 8 years now. This is like my 5th show I've done. So none of them have been famous. You won't recognize me, but I've been on Discovery Channel, Science Channel, Facebook Watch now.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so me and Newhouse are talking about taking this thing live because right now we just record. We just put on. You think? What do you think? IGTV, Facebook Live, YouTube Live.
Do it. Take it live. I mean, you're gonna get more audience for free. Get out there, get your production values, or if you can do a show live, then you can do one edited, because you have all that ability to control it. So if you can really hold down your live experience, so much better.
Of those 3, though, do you have any recommendations? Any feelings on those? The differences.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know
Right.
enough about the space. I'm really not like a marketer and everything, and I'm in the TV
you can
business.
show up and host the shit.
I just
You
I
let-
just
you
show
let
up
the
in front of the
interns
camera.
run. Yeah.
So all those
Right.
questions, and even when I did my own stuff, like when I was marketing it, I never did like video marketing. So
Right.
I don't know much about content creation. I'm sorry.
Damn. No. But that's dude. That's risky biz. Facebook Watch. Watch him get punched in the stomach.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey,
This was
thank
fun.
you so much.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, house party next Saturday.
Yeah. You guys are invited.
I'll be gone. I'll be going to Italy.
I'll be here, dude. Sounds
I'll
great.
be-
Come on by.
Yeah.
Come on by. We'll have like the overflow of the party in the armored truck.
Exactly. This is
Yeah.
where the post game. They'll hotbox it, put the top on. It's chill.
Boom.
Just kidding. You're the owner of.
He's not Elon, dude.
He's
Come
not
on.
Elon, dude. We just start smoking weed. Your funding gets pulled.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be pretty chill. Okay, good stuff, everyone.
Yeah.
All
Newhouse,
right.
hey, thanks for coming on, dude. This is your first time showing your mug on live TV.
It's been a good time.
It's been a
Thanks
good
Joe,
time.
for having us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, of course. It's been a good mug, brother. Okay, peace out, everyone.
All right.
One love.